missing someone.
Welcome to Quick Fix, where we quickly fix movies to make them better. In this episode, I'll be taking a look at Star Wars The Last Jedi. This video will contain spoilers. The first thing to fix is how the First Order is tracking the Resistance. The reason in The Last Jedi is that they have the technology to track ships through lightspeed. This is where we fix the first issue. Instead of having the technology to track through lightspeed, we instead find out there's someone in the Resistance giving coordinates straight to Hux. Who can the traitor be? Well, Holdo. That way when Poe accuses Holdo of being a coward and a traitor, it makes sense. This would result in Poe taking charge and making the decision to escape to the nearby planet of Crate. Moving on to the next abomination, Finn and Rose. Instead of taking a very pointless detour to Canto Bight, Finn and Rose realize the Resistance doesn't stand a chance against the First Order, which leads them to take action and at least try to sabotage a nearby Star Destroyer, hoping to give the Resistance some chance. Finn, with his knowledge of being in and around the Star Destroyer back when he was a stormtrooper in The Force Awakens, and Rose, with her mechanical experience, go on to a mission to give the Resistance a fighting chance. Something that many fans were vocal about was the aggressiveness of the First Order. After finally having the Resistance backed into a corner, they wait for their fuel to run out. No, instead, let's have the First Order send a Star Destroyer in lightspeed and jump right back in front of the Resistance. By the way, it just so happens to be the same Star Destroyer Finn and Rose are on. Snoke, being fully aware of the Resistance plan to escape to the planet Crate and send out a distress beacon to the galaxy, Snoke knows that the beacon would bring Skywalker that much closer to him, so he orders his fleet to hold as the Resistance moves on with their plan. This would at least give some explanation on why the First Order isn't sending all their TIE fighters and just wiping out the Resistance. Moving on, let's talk about Luke and Rey. Luke Skywalker has excluded himself on Ahch-To after failing to train young Jedi. He's on a remote island to be at peace and explore more about the Force, hinting at becoming a Force Jedi. Not that stupid reason we got in the movie where he says he's just on this island to die. Luke feels Rey's presence as soon as she arrived with Anakin's lightsaber. Now, this is something the movie does terribly wrong. I knew something was wrong in The Last Jedi when Luke doesn't care about his father's lightsaber and Rey does. As Rey hands Luke Skywalker his father's lightsaber, he just gives this weird death stare and all of a sudden just chucks it behind him. Instead, Luke Skywalker would look at Anakin's lightsaber and be reminded of Cloud City. He would be reminded of knowing the truth about his father and that this weapon was gifted to him by his first mentor in Obi-Wan. Luke would realize the importance and eventually train Rey. After some lessons about the Force and what it is, Luke would ask Rey to lift up his X-Wing from the waters, a nod to Empire Strikes Back when Yoda asks Luke to do the same. Rey would fail and express how hard it is. Luke would pull a Yoda and easily lift the X-Wing, showing us how far he's come and how powerful he is with the Force. Another fix, Snoke. Let's say Snoke's fate stays exactly the same. I know what you're thinking, what the heck, they killed off Snoke and wasted a character, I know. But instead of Snoke having a pointless death, Snoke instead would know exactly what Kylo is doing and is seeing what decision he would make when he's given the opportunity to kill Rey. Realizing that Kylo would fail and knowing fully well what Kylo is doing with the lightsaber sitting next to him, as Snoke gets cut in half, a loud sinister laugh fills the room. This would deceive Kylo in thinking Snoke was dead, but ultimately Snoke would become more powerful in episode 9. This gives J.J. Abrams a way to finish off this character that he started from Force Awakens and give him needed backstory. Finally, we go to planet Crate. I would actually have Finn ultimately sacrifice himself in order to destroy the mini Death Star rig the First Order had. Luke would eventually arrive after the distress signal was sent out and face off against the First Order, exactly like the movie. I wouldn't change a single thing with Luke Skywalker's encounter with the First Order. Kylo would order every cannon to fire at Luke, and this is where the movie hurt me the most. This is the biggest waste of Luke Skywalker. This is the perfect opportunity to show off Luke Skywalker's knowledge of the Force, and they do absolutely nothing with it. Yes, he's projecting himself using the Force. That's pretty impressive, but then again, if he's gonna die that way, why not just show up anyway? In the recent book called Legends of Luke Skywalker, it hints at Luke Skywalker ripping apart a Star Destroyer from the sky. The premise of the novel is that the cargo crew aboard on a ship are recalling stories surrounding Luke Skywalker and what they've heard throughout their lives. This is a direct quote from the book. The bridge went dark. The overhead lights, the view screens, the blinking lights on the back of the consoles, even the emergency lighting strips on the floor. All around us was the darkness of space. I saw the bridge window were rapidly filling with expanding columns of energy, a jolt as if the entire Star Destroyer has been picked up by a giant hand and slammed against the ground. The ship slowed, drifted, stopped, and then stark, lifeless surface of Jakku swung into view. Filling the windows, we fell. Now, although that's being told by a certain perspective, it could be exaggerated. We know that in Legends there's multiple material out there that proves that Luke Skywalker is so powerful that he could take on Star Destroyers on his own. This is a recent book, Legends of Luke Skywalker, that came out that kind of hinted towards that, which I thought was kind of cool. Although Luke Skywalker is widely known as the greatest Jedi to have ever lived and is the only person to defeat one of the most powerful beings in the Star Wars universe, Abeloth, touching a bit on the Legends material from the Dark Empire series, which takes place 10 years after Return of the Jedi, and it mainly just goes over how Sidious transferred his body to a clone and became even more powerful. In Dark Empire 6, it states that Luke Skywalker is Sidious's greatest adversary when they faced off once again. The Dark Empire 2 shows us how Luke Skywalker can use the Force to shield himself and the ones around him. Jem says, "Alive? I'm alive. How?" Luke replies, "The Force. I used it to shield us." He's talking about his encounter with Ood. The blast disintegrated Ood, so logically, it was far more powerful than anything in Exar Kun's arsenal, and Luke tanked it, which means Luke has the ability to block any dark side 10 rolls that disintegrated Darth Bane as well. The point of all this is that Luke Skywalker is so powerful, and The Last Jedi had perfect moments in the movie to display just how powerful he is. Maybe even hinting at Force Unleashed abilities could have been cool. Instead, you end up feeling exactly how Mark Hamill did. It's not his version of Luke Skywalker, and it's definitely not mine. After successfully redeeming the most evil man in the galaxy, Vader, after conquering the Emperor, Luke Skywalker attempts murder on Ben Solo just because he thinks he's turning to the dark side and Snoke already corrupted him. Doesn't make sense. Not even discussing it beforehand with Leia and Han. He gets bested by Rey in a combat stick duel in the movie. Person who didn't believe in the Force a week ago. All of a sudden she suddenly can take on one of the most powerful beings in Star Wars. This movie isn't that enjoyable to me. Every time I watch it, I'm reminded of wasted potential. If you could find a way to enjoy this movie, then props to you, but The Last Jedi will always be wasted potential in my eyes. Not sure how Rian Johnson can be awarded his own trilogy after this. If you look at Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has the worst review in all of the numbered Star Wars. The entire point is they ruined Luke Skywalker. The movie could have done so much more. Felt like the director didn't know the material well, or he didn't know how to incorporate it well, but it is one of the least greatest in my book. Thanks for listening. A like would be appreciated. Let me know what you think about the direction Disney went with Star Wars The Last Jedi and what you would have liked to see. If you have any other suggestions for other movies you'd like me to discuss or quickly fix, leave them down below. I'll do my best. I'll do my best in fixing parts of an awful movie to make it a bit better. So thanks for listening. LDF.
Missing someone is as normal. Missing someone.